All right, so Israel Adesanya has talked about potentially making a comeback a lot sooner than UFC, or not UFC. I think he was saying that he wanted to do a comeback originally in 2027. Now, of course, this is, I guess I won't call him the king of cringe because someone else already has that title, but here's a guy who said, "Oh, well, I said specifically 2027, and now you're holding me to my own words. Haha, what dummies you guys are." Now, that is just such a, you know, pathetic and cringe thing to say because again, if you give us specifics on what you're going to do, if you specifically say, "Oh, well, 2027 and on March, 14th, that's when I'm going to be fighting or whatever." And we hold you to that, right? And then you say, "Oh, you actually believe me?" Haha. Well, I mean, I guess that says more about him than it does us because I mean, why wouldn't it? But so I'm wondering if he's talking about doing a comeback, when will it be? Who will he be fighting? Details like that are very interesting to kind of ponder. Now, there are some rumors that he's going to be fighting Chimaev. I don't think that'll ever happen. The UFC is very protective of their, I don't know, their pay per view guys, I guess you could say, the money fight guys. I mean, Izzy is kind of like, he portrays himself as like a sort of, kind of like a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant of MMA. People like him for superficial reasons, I assume. I mean, I don't know anyone that really genuinely likes him. Maybe they're all Gen Z Fortniters or something. But either way, he is a big fight. I do want to see him fight Stern guys. Now, who do we think he'll come back? Not like who do I want him to come back against. I mean, I think the bigger question is like, does he still want the title? Because if he wants the title, and remember he had it and then he lost it and then he took it back and then he lost it again, so just think about the mental roller coaster that is, right? You fight a guy, he beats you, you come back, you probably motivate yourself, your first loss in the UFC, he comes back, he lands that right hand with his eyes closed, and then he won, and then he takes on some, probably in his opinion just some top 10 guy, and then he gets pieced up and he loses his title again. And like, how do you even come back from that? Not to mention the emotional damage of all the dog stuff. I mean, that was a huge thing. I mean, he was constantly being made fun of, and this is a guy who was admired to like the highest amounts. Like, I mean, this guy was like, he could do anything, and yet his own followers were like, well, he could do that because what are you going to do about it? He'll beat you up in a fight. So it was this weird way where, like, if someone could beat you in a fight, they could be doing anything because they're just so inherently more manly than you. But, to get back on topic, who is he going to fight? Or who should he fight? Because, I don't think he can change his style. I mean, when he fought Alex Pereira in the rematch, all he did was he came up with that kind of rope-a-dope strategy. It was like, okay, we're gonna play turtle, we're gonna like hold here. Not a good strategy at all, right? He could have been taken out at any point with that. We have small gloves here, and his arms are inwards. There's not a lot to block from there. Most shots are getting through, even partially, and the partial shots you're feeling them. They could knock you out through your guard. Like, look at Dustin Poirier getting knocked out through his guard with a head kick by Dustin. So not a really great strategy, but he did come up with something, and it did win. It did give him the belt, I guess you could say. But could he change into basically a whole nother person to beat Sean Strickland? Because that's what he's going to have to do. Because Sean Strickland has a great defense, and he also comes forward. He pressures very, very slowly, like kind of like a jaguar or a cheetah or some kind of feline, where they're just very slowly inching their way centimeter by centimeter towards you. They're totally focused on you, and they're moving like almost in slow motion in order to get to you. That's kind of how that fight was. He was just pressuring very, very slowly, using a lot of arm punches to get within range, put him up against the fence, and then that's when he landed a couple, like the 1-2. That's where he landed a lot of teep kicks. He'll land the 1-2, and then you come in with a combo, and then he'll stop you with a teep kick. So it wasn't something that Izzy knew how to counter. He's good at bobbing and weaving, but then there's really not much you could do to a teep kick or to, the leg kicks landing on him. So it was like, yeah, he was kind of like, bobbing and weaving stuff, but for the most part, there was nothing he could do. He was throwing like power hooks, and again, all of it being blocked. So if he's thinking like kind of in a political way, he's going to think, well, it's not in my self interest to fight Sean Strickland because he can't just come up with a new style. But then at the same time, he's caught in a situation probably like, Usman, who has cleared out his own division. But at the same time, he can't beat the guy who's the champion. And at this point, he's already had so many fights that no one wants to see another one. So then it's like you're kind of caught in this weird like limbo. So it's like Izzy, he probably shouldn't fight Sean again. He could if Sean loses against Dricus, then he could fight him again. Would he want to? With everything going on, would he beat him physically? Probably not. And would he beat him in the next press conference? Definitely not. Or maybe. I mean, Sean's in a kind of precarious position right now. But I mean, I think a lot of people are thinking, well, if Dricus beats Sean, then that gives Izzy the way up, and then Izzy can fight for the title again. He wouldn't just fight for, number 2 or whatever. He'll fight for the title, and maybe he can say, well, I'm a title, like, I only fight in title fights, He'll say that to himself, like, oh, that's, I'm not a champion, but I only fight in title fights. I'm not fighting in these, like, top 5 fights or whatever. He's only going to take the big fights, which he does have the ability to do. He does have the star power to do that. So he could do that against Dricus. Now, that's another interesting fight because, again, Dricus he looks so good against Whitaker. I rewatched it the other day, and yeah, he did get caught with jabs. He did get caught with some 1-2s. He's not too good with straight punches, it looks like. He's not really a feinter. He kind of just powers his way in, but he does have a big head, and he looks like a very strong guy. He looks like the type of guy, if he gets his hands on you, typically most guys get overpowered. So if he were to fight against Izzy, I mean, we're not looking at him getting pieced up like he did in the Sean Strickland fight. We're looking at him potentially getting KO'd or even finished. If Dricus comes in with a combination, Izzy would move backwards. He'll probably throw a punch that will get ducked under by Dricus because he doesn't have his chin up in the air. He tends to kind of have his chin tends to go down when he throws a combo, and his hands are kind of up throwing the combination. So he's already ready to shoot on you. If anything, that would scare Izzy because you're like, he's in such an awkward position. It's like, is he shooting on me? And is he just throwing this combination to get in my vicinity? Or is he just throwing this in order to get in, and then he's going to throw another combination? It's a very dangerous thing to a guy who doesn't want to be grappled because, unlike kickboxing, you can't just clinch the guy and then the ref comes and just, and it gives you back your distance. You need to actually fight there. And a lot of guys, surprisingly, whenever they fight Izzy, they don't really actually try to take him down. You'll see Whitaker, and he'll go in for like a single leg, and then Izzy, he defends it, and then he just gives it up. He just gives up. Like, he doesn't like go for the single, and then Izzy sprawls, and then he just hold on and then convert over to the back. He doesn't try to, okay, well, the single didn't work. Let me take him the opposite direction. Let me do a single, push him to the fence, and then go for a double. It tends to just be like they try, and then if they don't immediately get it, then they immediately give up. And same thing with Yoel Romero. If you watch his fight, it was the same situation. He went in there. I think he might have tried for like maybe not even like power doubles. I think he went in for like 2 kind of like single legs, half effort, didn't immediately get it, gave it up. It was just really weird. I don't know. It's like when you fight Izzy, I mean, he's a champion kickboxer. Like, why wouldn't you take him down or put in effort? Again, look at Sean Strickland. His coach, the whole training camp was essentially wrestling. They admitted to this, but Sean wanted to strike him because, Sean Strickland is Sean Strickland. But again, the idea is that if you want to beat this guy, especially easily, which means you take low damage, you'd want to go in there and put him in the element that he isn't accustomed to. So it's like, you have a battle between a bird and a fish, and the fish wants to grab the bird and pull the bird into its element, which is the water. And the bird wants to, at the same time, grab the fish and pull it up in the air, which is its element. And we're starting to notice a lot of fights are this way. A lot of guys, it's all about maintaining your rhythm, making sure that the fight is in your element, not in the other guy's. So in Izzy's position, he's all about, he needs to maintain distance. And then to the guys fighting him, Vittori, you have Whitaker, Yoel Romero, a lot of these guys. It should be okay. Well, you should assume he's a champion in kickboxing. He's probably superior to you in striking, which means you want to get the fight into a different element. But I think a lot of it comes down to mental pressure. These guys go into these fights and there's a lot of pressure, and because of it, they don't really fight smart. They kind of just go in there and they go into fight or flight mode. It's kind of a thing no one talks about, but it's definitely a major element. It's just people don't talk about it because fighters are told, don't complain and all this stuff, and just go in there, shake the other guy's hand, just move on. They don't really talk about what was going on in there, which is kind of sad because, if we want to get better, we need to start communicating on every level with each other. And, it's kind of turned into that. But who should Izzy fight? I mean, he can't fight Robert because Robert, he's already fought him twice. So who wants to see a third fight? Vittori, no way. Cannonier, he fought him. I don't really see a second. They could potentially say that because he did beat Sean in a very controversial decision. So that could happen. But I think if Sean loses or if Dricus loses, whoever, I think Izzy should get the next shot. I mean, if he wants to actually do something that's going to benefit him, he should be waiting. Whoever wins that fight, he should be challenging them next. The UFC will 100% give him it because he's the money guy. He'll go up there against preferably Dricus. Obviously, he doesn't want to go through the Sean Strickland press conference again, get all the dog stuff brought up again. So he wants to fight against Dricus, make it it's a whole different thing. I don't even know if Dricus will bring the dog stuff up. He might, but there's a higher chance that Sean will. So he could fight Dricus. And then, if what I would like to see is if he did beat Dricus somehow, then he could go up and then challenge, Alex Pereira for the next belt, which would then conclude that whole thing between both of them, which would be awesome. But again, I don't really want to see that. I want to see him go up to Dricus and then see Dricus win. I think that's the thing that makes the most sense for Izzy, kind of like in a self-interest. If he wants to get the belt back, the best way to do it and the best person to do it against, well, maybe not the best person to do it against, but the best opportunity would be against Dricus. And if he won that, he could, be that guy and say, well, you need to fight a couple more, which is what he did to Alex Pereira. And then he could go up, and then this will be his only chance ever to become a double champ, or his second chance. And then he could go up and then fight Pereira, which would end that whole thing. And hopefully Alex gets his karma, or Izzy gets his karma for everything he did, and Alex takes him out. But yeah, I think Izzy should probably fight Dricus. If Dricus wins, I think Dricus will win, and then Izzy can fight him, and then we'll see that whole drama play out, which I think will be very entertaining, and I think it'll be possibly a great fight. I'm going to pay for it for sure, or find a link or whatever. I'm definitely going to be there if the Izzy versus Dricus fight happens.